Okay, welcome to 10. This is our subseries, it's not Better Culture, it's Tech Culture in collaboration with Better Culture. I'm Shauna Dorsey, Executive Director of the Nebraska Tech Collaborative, and I'm here with my special guest co-host.
Absolutely. Kevin Hensel with
Excellent.
BetterCulture, Senior Consultant.
Awesome. So one thing that I forgot to do on our previous two episodes, but that's okay, we'll do it now,
Right.
is for you to tell us about Better Culture and the 20 tenets, and then we'll kind of get into Tenet 16.
Absolutely. So BetterCulture exists to make the world a better place to work. So we provide in-person and on-demand organizational culture and leadership development programming.
Okay.
We believe that better culture equals better business, that there is a direct correlation to the environment that people have to work in and business outcomes.
Excellent. And I'm learning this through our conversations that this is 100% true. And the work over time that I've done with you and your team it's just been awesome. So, Tenant 16.
Tenant 16 is own it and fix it.
All right. Tell us more.
So it's really all about accountability. All right. It's tough. Accountability can be tough.
Mm-hmm.
We've fallen short somewhere. Typically, well, we categorize the way to respond to falling short in three different ways. One, you've got individuals who maybe get defensive, excuse make, come up with all the reasons why maybe they didn't meet a deadline or they were late for a project or whatever the case may be. The second person recognizes and does accept responsibility and accountability, but they have that conversation kind of in a vacuum, maybe with their supervisor or their peer or the person to whom they have fallen short with. The challenge is if it is a situation where someone has fallen short that impacts more than just one individual, but you've only acknowledged the falling short with an individual, everyone else is left to wonder, did you care? Does it matter?
Right.
Right? Because they're not going to be privy to that conversation that maybe I had with my supervisor.
Right.
So own it and fix it is the next layer of accountability to say, I'm going to acknowledge and own my mistake, but then I'm also going to acknowledge it with everyone that it impacted. Right. And so what happens there is one, we eliminate people passing judgment or making assumptions, right? We are courageous enough to be able to acknowledge to everyone, I understand that my mistake has had negative repercussions on you, and I apologize, and I am committed to ensuring that as we go forward that does not happen. What happens with that is now suddenly we're even more accountable than we were before, because hopefully, because we have spoken this commitment to the group and not an individual. So now we have more people acknowledging, right, this apology. But the other thing that happens is hopefully people start looking at the person who's apologizing in higher regard, recognizing the courage that it took, right? And setting a new level of expectation around accountability now for the team, right? There's some modeling that goes on there of, oh yeah, I've always been willing to accept, right, my mistakes and be accountable to that, but I don't know that I've taken it a step further and acknowledged it to everyone that the mistake may have impacted in a negative way.
That's powerful. So I have several questions about this. I think this concept is so important though, because to your point, one thing that it does is saying, hey, okay, I messed up and here's what I'm going to do. It definitely helps with this kind of concept of trust that we've been talking about. It's
Right.
huge, huge, huge because you're recognizing a misstep. I'm not going to call it a mistake, but a misstep. And then also the steps you're going to take to correct it. So there's some accountability there, like you said.
Right.
And then also like, okay, now you have to follow through on the thing that you said you're going to do, but it just gives you just more opportunities to say like, okay, I am delivering on the promises I've made to you and myself. And then if I don't, because that might happen too, just continuing to have those conversations, I think, right?
Right, right.
Mhm.
From that self accountability standpoint, acknowledging in advance, right? You can own it and fix it before the fact versus after the fact,
Right.
right? My first example, it was definitely more of an after the fact thought process. But it is also very challenging to have to own it and fix it in advance, knowing that you are going to fall
Yeah.
short, right?
Mhm.
But there gives you the opportunity to present an apology with a plan
Yes.
and a commitment, right? And so the strongest teams have individuals who are willing to own it and fix it.
Mhm.
But even stronger are those folks who are recognizing, oh, hang on a second, I think I may have overpromised and I'm going to underdeliver. Let me cut that off at the pass.
Mhm.
Acknowledge it and let folks know what the strategy is to take care of that.
Right. Yeah, I think that's so huge for people too. So it's not like people are scrambling to come up with a solution. It's like, okay, he has, they've already come up with something that can work for us to move forward.
Right.
And let's figure out how to get on board to support that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It may not lessen the frustration
Yep.
from team members, but it's way better than going radio silent, right?
Absolutely.
And surprising people when it's too late.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think there is sometimes a tendency to just avoid that type of conflict because it's hard to own up to, oh man, I messed up,
Yes.
especially when you're early in your career, those sorts of things. So, just to that point, how would you suggest that? Truly, like an early career person, I think this is like one of the hardest things
Hmm.
to deal with. But how do you suggest that a person in that position approach this?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, so our founder, Dr. Kim Hogeveen,
Hmm.
said probably the greatest advice he would ever give his two sons um, at a younger stage would have been never overpromise and underdeliver, right?
Hmm.
Be honest around the expectations, right? Set a promise a day out of when a project's going to be done. Even if you think you can get it done on Thursday, say they'll have it on Friday and then get it to them on Thursday,
Yeah.
right? So then you don't even have to go there.
Mhm.
But I would go back to, if the mistake is made, it is going to be far better. You're going to be far more impressive, I guess. I don't know if that's quite the right word, but respected, right? To be able to have the courage to acknowledge that misstep. I
Mhm.
love changing my vernacular around there, right? For a young person
Mhm.
starting out in the work world, understanding that we all have missteps,
Mhm.
right? But it's trying to get in front of that and reflect, what do I do differently the next time?
Right.
Which goes back to the fix it part, is
Mhm.
in that apology and that acknowledgement. It's, you've got to be thinking about, how are you going to keep this from happening again, and committing to that.
Yep. That's really great. This is just such an interesting topic because I can think about, or I think about when I was really early in my career and I thought every decision that was made that did not work out well was like career ending for me, and it wasn't, obviously,
Right.
but it's just that that was my mindset as a reformed perfectionist. Now I'm
Yeah.
like, good enough. Let's move on.
Yeah, and when you have individuals who are
Mhm.
highly conscientious, right? That they're pleasers, they want to do a nice job. They're harder on themselves,
Yep.
really, than their team members probably would be on them to begin
Mhm.
with. But it is also working in an overall culture and environment that has a growth mindset and
Absolutely.
believes that you're able to fail forward,
Yes.
right? Rather than there being punitive consequences
Mhm.
to the missteps.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm definitely of the mindset now that I prefer people to try things even and you know, and it not work out versus just like, well, I can't make one more step without like insert whatever data they need at that point.
Right.
And I do understand the need for complete information, so that is won't go like I'm not saying that's not important, but I just love a person who will try.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
We're not gonna make any kind of progress
Yep,
if we don't try.
exactly. Mm,
No growth.
this is good. Well, thanks again for
Super.
this.
Thanks, Shauna.
Yeah, so good.